Hey folks, and welcome back to Lonely Horde Guitars. So it's been a couple weeks and I kind of probably owe you all an update. I asked what everybody liked for the heel on this Sapele Jumbo. And the options were a little bit of Koa, leave it plain, or maybe some rosewood. And pretty much overwhelmingly folks like the Koa. So that's what we're going to go with. Now, I did get to use the rosewood on this Sapele 12-string. So when we do the final neck shaping, we'll bring this down to the level of the back. But I think that looks pretty sharp. So let's go ahead and go into how we put this cap on here. So usually when I do a neck blank and I do the stacked heel, I go a little bit higher than what is needed to get to the end of the body. And that is so I can trace what's this angle. And we're going to go ahead and mark that out and then take that angle and then we're going to cut a little bit off at that angle. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, now we've got our line here. We're just gonna figure out what this angle is. And these little digital angle finders are super handy. Looking like about 86.8. So here is my jig for the miter saw. What I basically got is I've got a nice flat surface that I can tape my neck to so that I can make my cut across here. And then just a nice chunk of wood here that's square that can go up against the fence. And you'll see how it goes once we get over to the miter table. And let's go ahead and tape this. You guys know how I love my double stick tape. Now I've marked a line here of where my neck needs to be at this point so that I'm nice and square. So if I line up the heel and then the bottom of the neck here and tape it down, I should be nice and perpendicular this way, nice and perpendicular this way, and I'll get a nice square or a nice cut at the angle that I desire. So now our angle was 86.8, so I've set this to minus 3.2 degrees, and I've taken my line here and moved it down not quite a quarter of an inch, just about the width of the cap and maybe a little bit less, so that when we stack this on here, I will clear the back of the guitar by just a little bit, and so that I can then sand that down to be level with the back of the guitar. But same angle. And then we are just going to make our cut nice and slow because we don't have anything that's going to prevent chip out and we don't want to push the jig as we make the cut. Back at the bench, we've stuck our neck back on and our cap is going to go on like this. So let's go ahead and pull the neck out and glue this one up. All right, so this is on an angle, so you don't want to make it just perfectly flush with here, because then what's going to happen is that cap is going to flare out as it comes towards the base, because we're not actually perfectly perpendicular. So we want to slide that back just a little bit So we will have to cut this part off a little bit. We'll take a little chisel to it and maybe a little bit of sanding. This one we don't need a lot, but maybe just kind of, yep, that gives us enough. And we can probably tilt this side. And that gives us enough that we've got solid wood once we clean that up. All right, and then we're just going to let this dry for a bit. All right, folks, we are back. So now, got a little bit of an edge here we need to take off. Card scraper, a little sticky sandpaper on it. I find it easier on things like this where I'm trying to match a surface to do this rather than a sanding block. And with a little chiseling and sanding, we have our final fit. So this neck is now ready for a fretboard and then to get its final shaping and sanding. If this is the kind of content you like, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you at the next one.